What did you think of LSU versus Texas A&M and recapping that game?
Well, so to be very specific, talking about Texas A&M, because we kind of spent a little time talking about LSU here. Blake, I think that you saw two diametrically opposite teams. You saw two teams that are in completely different alternate realities. Blake, I remember when Elko was hired, there wasn't necessarily pushback. There weren't really A&M fans that I thought were really upset and bothered by it, but it felt like it was a consolation prize. But us on this show, we talked about how Mike Elko was the right man for the job. He was somebody who turned Duke into a physically imposing, dominant team in the ACC with recruiting limitations. And he's already done it in year 2 at Texas A&M with all the resources that are available to him. Man, I think that Mike Elko does everything right because you see the effort and the intent in everything that they do. It shows up on special teams. It shows up when they're battling adversity on the road in a loud-ass stadium that they do not flinch and they recover. Marcel Reed is the perfect example of all of this because he's got 2 bad turnovers. He almost has a third. And the kid just acts like it was nothing. He responds. He bounces. He just completely turned his head and then looked ahead to the next play. Like, I think that this A&M team does still have a couple of issues that could catch up to it that we've seen from past experiences. But I'm all in on Elko for the future of this program. And I think that with the remaining schedule, they should be considered a lock to get to the SEC championship game.
They do everything very well.
Yeah.
And they have the mentality. They can run the football. And, Joe, I think that, I don't know the real status of Le'Veon Moss at the current moment. But with the status of Le'Veon Moss, you have a lot of really good backs. Joe, they're kind of beat up there. Reuben Owens got a little beat up. They're explosive. Marcel Reed did a lot of big-time things last night. And listen, here's the thing that I took away from A&M. You're explosive. Your defense was really physical last night. I will tell you, Joe, the run game, whether they want to admit this or not, they blew LSU out. LSU ran the ball with their star running backs once in the second half. They completely folded. You did give up 7 yards to carry to both backs. LSU is not a good running team. So that is something that you're going to have to focus in on, and we all understand that. They never blinked. Marcel Reed threw 2 interceptions. Mansour DeLeone makes a ridiculous play, and then the pick by Harold Perkins. You have the interception by A.J. Halsey. They go down at halftime, and they came out in the second half and completely whooped LSU's ass. Joe, they didn't throw the football to start the second half. They ran the football right at LSU and said, you can't stop us, and we're going to beat you. The halftime adjustments in this game and what Mike Elko has done to Brian Kelly in back-to-back years. Think about this, Joe. The last 2 years, LSU versus Texas A&M, A&M has outscored LSU 60-6. 60-6. Marcel Reed went off. This running game went off. And every time that you try to do something different, like, for example, LSU had 2 picks. They played man coverage. Okay, well, sounds good. You're going to back off in the second half. We're running it right at you. They do so many dynamic things offensively. I think that they're one of the best teams, definitely in the SEC. They're one of the best teams in the country. There's not a lot that they don't do well. But here's the thing. Got to give Tommy Moffitt, former LSU strength coach, who Brian Kelly fired, by the way, they have the mentality. Mentality and culture is what was built there. And they took it to LSU last night.
Well, and I think the perfect example, you bring up Moffitt. Marshall tagged us in something on the Discord about the athletic improvements that Cassius Howell had. Here it is. They showed it on the screen. His top speed increased by 17%. His vertical jump increased by 7 inches. His bench press went from 300 to 350, and his squat jumped from 435 to 500 pounds. I think that's where the most underrated part about this is that you've got a year by year. Moffitt's a big driving force for this, but I think that this coaching staff at A&M has not only had a year-by-year improvement because roster development and development of key underrated playmakers and pieces on the team has been important for the transformation. I also feel like this has been a team that's gotten better every single week.
Every week.
That is the most important thing for producing success in college football is you need to be able to get better every single week. And they have adjusted. They have improved. As you said, though, that is the one thing where I feel Texas A&M has been able to kind of hide their biggest error, which is their inability to stop big plays in the run game. They've got good front seven players, but for whatever reason, they keep giving up chunk plays to teams that have good athletes at running back and at quarterback. It happened against Arkansas. It happened against Notre Dame. And in this spot, if LSU committed to running the ball more, I'm not implying that LSU wins the game, but they probably would have rushed for more yards. No, they could have
kept it closer. Can we just be honest about something?
Well, yeah, I mean, we know that Joe Sloan's a moron.
Okay, he's a moron.
We watched him on screen during the broadcast arguing with BK, telling him, why are you calling that play?
And hold on. BK, how did you not know? It's your job when you're paid $9.5 million to manage the clock. Yeah. Newsflash to everyone. But how in the hell does Joe Sloan throw a ball in the flat? By the way, I'm sorry, I got to go off on this. Harlan Berry's running the ball for 7 yards a carry. He was the number one running back in the country last year, and he went off. And you gave him one fucking touch in the second half.
I tweeted this too. I'm like, he scores, and you're like, oh my God, give him the ball. This kid's electric. Give him the ball. And then suddenly he stops touching the ball. What?
Joe, on Thursday, you know this, I do keys to victory. I said you had to suffocate the time of possession. You went down 10, and your butthole got so tight you couldn't fit a grease BB in it because you're scared. And A&M took a hold of you. They came in there and did the 12th man all over your ass and stomped you into the ground.
Unacceptable.
I got to be real. Hold on. A&M fans aren't going to hear this. They're going to get mad, but here's the truth. LSU's 115th in the country in rushing, and they ran the ball on your ass.
Right. I mean, that is what I come down to, and it's not shade directed at Texas A&M. The whole talking point this year is that there's really not many truly balanced teams in the sport. There are teams that have deficiencies in areas where they need to be better. Here's the thing with Texas A&M, though, Blake, that I think doesn't apply for some other teams that are struggling in various areas. Like Alabama's inability to run the ball is a concern because they don't have depth at running back, and those guys are not stepping up to the way that they need to. Georgia's inability to generate a pass rush is a concern because they don't really have the pass rushing talent that they usually do. I feel like Texas A&M has the defensive tackle talent. I feel like they have the linebacker talent. They have the edge talent to eventually bat down the hatches and play better. I don't know when that happens, and I don't know if it's something that is accomplished by the end of the year, but if there's a team that has the bodies to resolve that issue by the time they get to an SEC championship game, by the time they get to the college football playoff, it is this Texas A&M team, and especially with Elko.
Well, hold on. Newsflash. I don't see them losing a game.
No.
I do not envision them. I do not envision them losing a game in the month of November. I see them in Atlanta. And listen, we're going to talk about this with Alabama in the opposite direction, literally next. Bama can't run the ball. Okay? But here's what I know about Bama. They ain't getting away from it.
No.
And to A&M fans, listen, Joe, this is the same thing that happened last year with Miami. A&M fans aren't going to want to hear it. If you can't stop that, you're going to get beat. You quite simply, if bad teams that can't run the football, you will get beat. But the problem is, here's the one counteract to that. Number one, they just keep finding ways to win, whether it's short, intermediate stuff that they have to throw, whether it's short games and they have to pound it out versus Auburn. Joe, they can go shot for shot with anybody.
Yeah.
They can win games no matter how they need to. They're a really freaking good football team. So we'll see there. But I do think that they're going to get in Atlanta for the first time in their history in the SEC. All right, let's move on here.